Hey everybody, welcome once again to the PCS Summer Split Playoffs. We are rocking and rolling in this first week, and tonight we start the matches in the lower bracket, and it'll be J-Team taking on MetaFalcon. We'll see who triumphs and moves on forward, but before we get there, I do got to shout out our sponsors, CTBC Bank, who are always by our side, but for this split, these playoffs, we are now joined by China Airlines, so we'll be flying high as well. I'm joined by Nightstar Empire Technics. How you doing today, Frank?
Can't wait to dive into it. We saw our first two upper bracket matches were really exciting. The J-Team one, of course, Beyond Gaming really coming out and surprising a lot of people. And then, of course, in the second match, well, let's not. All right, but
I know.
Match,
I got to give you your moment, is all I'm saying.
The second match, Frankie Sports, while they did come short, it was a very entertaining set of games still against CFO, where they did go toe-to-toe to a certain degree. But ultimately, CFO coming out on top, looking very strong, moving in the second round of playoffs. So for the lower bracket, it's really about these lower bracket teams to step up and come up and challenge our higher seeded teams. As we get the bracket pulled up, you know, CFO coming out 3-1, maybe not surprising for people, but certainly the second one right below them, the J-Team one, getting surprised 1-3 in the opposite direction, that was definitely surprising.
Yeah, that was definitely something that not a lot of people predicted. I do give you your moment on that one. However, the CFO game went a lot more as expected, especially with the return of Koala to the roster. So CFO taking on PSG Talon for a rematch of the finals and the upper bracket finals of Spring Split. But of course, for us today, it is all about the lower bracket kicking off. We are going to see if J-Team can start themselves back on their redemption arc, because that's the thing. And speaking of redemption, we all got some yesterday as we caught back up to you, Frank. But now as it's all tied up, we're all making the same bet here with J-Team over MFT.
Yeah, it's just really hard to predict either of our 7-8 teams against any of the top 6, just because of how dominant the top 6 have been, all with winning records. And then you look at our 7-8 teams, MFT, Impunity, we'll see tomorrow. They were really struggling to even get into those 7-8 spots.
Absolutely. I think it's worth noting that MFT really had a rough ride to finish out and only really beat the bottom teams to secure their 7th seed. For J-Team, they looked better and better going into the playoffs, but we started to see the jitters set in, and they didn't seem to adapt quite so well to patch 12.14 as at least I expected. I think we could have been looking to see more out of this squad. They were a little slow. They were a little thrown for a loop by Beyond Gaming and didn't challenge in the early game. I don't think they'll be as punished, even if they play like that, against the side of MFT. This really is a David and Goliath story, because MetaFalcon team, while most of our squads have looked improved over the course of the split, I kind of think it's been the opposite. This team, they seem to have lost a bit of their identity.
Yeah, this team definitely seems to have plateaued throughout just the entire year in general, where what we saw at the start of the split seemed, or what we saw at the start of the year seemed very similar to what we've seen since then. They have made, of course, a change in bringing Hongtu into the roster, and perhaps with his more meta-focused champion pool, that might change things just a bit for them. We'll see how it works out in these pick bans for the series, but I think the real champion flex is going to be in that bottom lane, where we've seen Whale bring out the Samira. Maybe if they somehow come out with a Samira or a Draven lane, get a few kills during the early game, that might provide that early game snowball that they can use to surprise a game or two against J-Team.
Yeah, as we saw in the series against Beyond, J-Team were acting and playing fairly slow, and if they don't get up to speed, there is a notable difference between Lil V when he's accelerated, Lil V when he's able to free hit from the backline, and Lil V that's struggling to farm up. So I like the idea of trying to attack the bot lane often and early. Perhaps it's a strategy that MFT have been cooking, and I think it certainly could work for them in this matchup to grab a game. Critical to both these teams' success will, of course, be the junglers. You have to compare Kongye just about every time to everybody, and 665, who was a standout performer last split, has certainly slumped quite a bit in the summer.
Yeah, and it feels like, for the most part, teams have figured out how MFT do want to play. And if you are able to attack and really take control of 665's jungle, that's where MFT's game plan stalls out heavily, because their laners aren't the strongest laners. That's why they ended up in the 7th spot. And if you remove the jungler and prevent him from influencing these lanes, then that just really accentuates the laning difference.
Have to find out what comes of these two teams' picks as we get in right now. Starting off, J-Team on the blue side with side selection. Take the Poppy off the board, as well as the Azir, targeting out Hong2. And this is, of course, because of the two mid laners. He does play more of those meta choices, but MFT are going to continue to deny Lil V the Kalista, and they take away the Sylas from Uniboy.
So the big carry picks for Uniboy have been the Sylas Azir, and when you look at the champions afterwards, you're looking at things, you know, like an Ahri, which, while can be very influential in the game, does drop off the later the game does go on. So while I think Uniboy will most likely land onto the Ahri pick in this particular game, it is one of those picks that, if MFT are able to drag things out, it does offer them a possibility of being able to then turn the tables, or at least in the scaling regards.
I do like that MFT have opted to ban out a handful of AD carries against Lil V. J-Team have options. The Zeri has not worked out for anybody in the PCS. I know, it's still good. We see it in the LCK. It's a good champion. But for some reason, something is missing there. And J-Team are not going to opt for that this time around. They are going to go for the Lucian, look to pair it up with the Nami, and get their lane on.
For MFT, I really think that if you're going for a champion like the Lucian, maybe they go for some sort of cheese, bring out the Draven, go early game, or perhaps if they want to go for more of a scaling option, there is, of course, the Aphelios direction, and MFT definitely one of those teams that are comfortable with the Aphelios pick. They do go ahead, lock in the Wukong, so once again, really emphasizing more of that mid-game team fight potential, along with a little bit of that early game skirmishing as well. And it looks like MFT are the ones that are going to look to deny away the Ahri. Oh, just kidding.
Last second, though, they do switch it away. I think they could have taken the Ahri on this rotation. It wouldn't have mattered since the AD carry's already shown. What do you make of that one, Nightstar?
I think they flash the Ahri pick, just try and get J-Team to go ahead, lock that in for Uniboy, and then they'll perhaps go ahead, counter pick it with either the LeBlanc or something maybe like the Vex. I think Vex could work out very, very well against a low range composition that J-Team already starting to look at with the Lucian pick, right? So, you know, most likely you're not going to get anything that long ranged unless if they do add something like a Xerath, which, let's be real, no one's picking Xerath right now.
Nah, I mean, maybe Nesty. Like, I think that's maybe the one play that I might opt for. But J-Team have given themselves a decent bit of pressure, calling it back on the Vi. The Kench is looking to be unbenched here, so MFT looks like they are playing a little bit of a safer lane. They know they're against the Lucian Nami. They want to get Whale into a scaling matchup, so rather than attacking early, they're opting to have him as the late game hyper carry. And let's see what else they pair up with this, because that Wukong, as you clocked, is going to have a big impact in the early and mid game, and I'd like to see them be able to ramp up in team fights.
Yeah, I really don't like the Tahm Kench pick in this lane, just because you're just going to get bullied to high health against the Lucian Nami. There really isn't an answer coming in from a Tahm Kench. You don't have the ability to engage very well against a pick like Lucian. So unless MFT do send the Wukong bot lane early and often, I see this going very, very well for the side of J-Team, with the Lucian Nami just getting very, very far ahead.
Yeah, that could be trouble for MFT in this first game. They have had a little bit of extra time to prepare. They've seen J-Team. They've been able to study the tape. I want to see what this former collegiate squad can do and pair it up against J Team, but it is a very big mismatch in terms of the way their records have shaked out. Worth remembering, MFT have not been able to beat any of the squads above them in the standings over the course of this split. They're a team that has a solid 0 win record against the top 6, but a perfect win record against the bottom 3. It is a night and day split.
Yeah. This is really just hitting everything as expected. And in a matchup where, you know, you get the wins where you need them and can't get them where against anyone above you, that makes it a tall task in this, again, as we highlighted, David versus Goliath matchup. Now going into the second phase, we do see Orin Talia taken off by MFT, pretty strong team fight champions, and on the flip side, J-Team removing the Victor and the Sejuani. So the early game or mid-game pressure coming in from a Sejuani taken off the table, which means we're actually going to see a blind pick, Renekton coming out from Taco. And an interesting thing coming out in this top lane is that both of these top laners do not get a lot of attention from their jungler. In fact, Taco, the only top laner that gets less jungle attention than Taco is Hanabi. So it just really highlights that maybe with this Renekton pick, they do opt to play more top half heavy than they would initially think.
Yeah, I do think with this Renekton, there's an opportunity for them to get aggressive early as well, and that's Swain getting locked in for Hong too, as they were prepared for the Ahri to come out. It's interesting, the Swain has been played by Wen, but this will be Hong 2's first go on the champion this split. And looking at the lineup here, J-Team have gotten themselves a solid early game bot strategy, but it definitely ramps up as they go further up the map, and it's the exact opposite if you look at MFT's side.
Yeah, very different points of scaling coming in from both ends. And I think, of course, this draft is going to favor J-Team a lot more because of the fact that they like to play bot side, and this draft really accentuates, hey, we're playing bot side. We have a strong bot lane to actually play around. We're going to look for those early dragons. And for MFT, they have a very strong team fight composition at first and second dragon. It's just a matter of, are they able to bring those pieces down to actually contribute? And how far behind will this Kench Aphelios lane be by the time we do hit to those first and second dragon points?
Yeah, I think we're going to need to see a lot of the 665 early. This Wukong is going to have to get involved very fast. And keeping in mind that he's up against Kongye, there's going to be a little bit of a timer. That Vi at level 6 is going to be able to do a lot and could potentially give that bottom lane an even harder time. Taking a look at our comps one more time here. Lucian Nami, definitely a worrying thing for MFT to face down. Make no mistake, they are not going to be the favorites, even if their composition was a bit more favored in pick ban. But in this case, J-Team have gotten a lot of what they wanted to play with, and I think it's going to be on MFT to strike early across the map, protect their Aphelios, and protect their Swain, get them to late game.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the very least, hey, it's a pretty low range composition coming in from J-Team, so the Renekton and the Swain will find massive value going towards the later portions of the game, and the Aphelios isn't too shabby when you are playing up against low range comps. He will be able to auto nonstop and get maximum value. Unfortunately, straight into a game pause, right?
Yeah, got that good old sepia screen. But hey, you know what? We get to talk a little bit more about the compositions, how they're going to work out, and maybe just about how J-Team are looking to bounce back, because they didn't just lose in their upper bracket round. I mean, that was still an upset, but they really had a hard time getting anything going, winning one game in the third, having to get back into it. You have to think that's going to be affecting your mental, even going up against a decidedly weaker opponent. So how do you think they're approaching this game one, Nightstar?
To me, with J-Team, this performance or in this series, they have to come out in a really strong manner and really just sweep MFT out of here, no questions asked. If we come in not factoring in their last series, you look at this matchup and say, all right, it's 3-0, probably don't even get a plus 28-minute game in there. All of these games should just be done and dusted. And J-Team historically have been a team that when they play against lower tier opponents, they will just ground pound you into the dirt and sweep you away like nobody's business. It's really against the more competitive teams that they do struggle to end games quickly. So I'm expecting to see a J team really come out and dominate from start to finish, no questions asked.
Yeah, MFT are going to, be aware of that. They're going to have to realize that they need to do something that they haven't been able to accomplish all split long, not just beating a team that's been above them in the standings, but be able to play aggressive against a squad like J Team that has been able to control teams that don't have as good of individual play or even macro play. I think a lot is going to rest on the shoulders of Taco, because that Renekton does have a lot of impact early, even if he doesn't get jungle attention. And Taco was a standout performer on Meta Falcon team in the spring split. Taco was an incredible player, and we saw really good game-winning fights out of him. Great flanks. I remember his Akali play was top tier, and he was able to pull off all of these carries really before the top lane was known in the PCS for being quite as hyper-aggressive as it has been, the pre-YSKM days, you could say. So that's the thing for me, is like, can Taco recapture a little bit of his spring split spirit, or will he just get rolled over? I mean, the Gwen can still play a little safe. It's not as dangerous pre-6, but you got to think Kongye is going to be making some tracks up there as well, especially if bot lane is already winning handily in the 2v2.
Yeah, and so Taco, definitely a really interesting player to take a look at in this series because of his diversity in champion pool. He has pulled out the KO this split, almost got the win on it as well against the side of I believe it was PSG, where he almost pulled it over their line for this squad. And he's also brought out things like the Mordekaiser, like the Aatrox, so picks that could succeed very well, given how J Team just don't really focus around top half. And it does look like it's, I would assume, looking like a issue with Roxen, as he's got the most people checking out his area.
The sleuth. Yeah, no, I mean, it makes a lot of sense that would be the reason. So hopefully we'll get word back that we'll be getting into game shortly. So thank you for bearing with us in the meantime. But more to your point on Taco too, patch 12.14 really did a lot of a shakeup on some of the more favored top lane champions in the PCS, the Gnar and the Gangplank. I know it hits Hanabi's pool especially hard. Rock, I think, is one of those players that could have suffered for it because he's played a number of these champions. And he didn't look that great in the Beyond Gaming match, I gotta say. He didn't play the first game. That was Driver, wiped that one off the board. Taco, I don't think, is a player that will be affected at all by those nerfs, because while he's played the Gnar, that's kind of just like, that's like Lee Sin for jungling. You just have to be able to do it at some point. But he's been much more favoring a lot of these fighter champions. The Gwen, the Jax has been a big one for him. So I do think he should feel pretty comfortable despite the changes. Some of the champion pool being drained just a little bit. And this Renekton, I'm curious to see what he can do on it. Again, it's all about recapturing his spring split performance, because that dude had some pop-off games that we just didn't really get to see from him that much in the summer.
Yeah, and one of the big difference in his, quirky picks, and in particular this game where he is picking the Renekton, is a lot of those other picks are a lot about the scaling factor, where at a certain point in the game, this champion will just take over the map. Things like the Kill, things like the Jax. If you just let them exist on their own, they will get to a point where they are too big to deal with. Unfortunately, that's not the same in this particular game. This Renekton will need to get a lead to be able to then snowball it. But thankfully for him is the fact that, the side of J Team, they don't necessarily focus a lot of attention top lane. Rock most likely will get left on an island. It will be nice to see Kongya try and make a move up top lane, but I think if there is a move that's going to be going top lane, it'll be off the back of killing Hong 2 in the mid lane. Get that early 2v2 kill, level 6 on Vi, go in with the cease and desist into the charm, lands the easy kill, and then they kind of 3-man gank top lane.
That is something you can do on the Ahri as well. And Kongya Uniboy combination was very touted when this duo joined the roster. I think we didn't get to see that much of it in the upper bracket matchup just because they were a very slow starting team. You got to think J Team at this point would have been able to download not just the changes in the meta thanks to the patch, but what they did wrong in the series against Beyond. I very much expect them to bounce back up. And I say this as somebody that had predicted them to win the whole thing, fully admitting my J-Team biases here on stream for everybody. But I think this team has always struggled sometimes in the playoffs because they just are a slow team. They build up their momentum over time, but if they start off on the back foot, I think they take a while to recover. So if they control this game, I think the second game will much look the same. The third game will much look the same. It's going to be all on MFT to try and get an answer, to try and show up early. And speaking of answers, we are still watching Rock and the technician search for what's going on his screen. So I don't know. Maybe Rock is asking, hey, what happened to the numbers of my champions, guys? Like, Riot, why did you nerf my Gangplank? Come on. But it looks like he's ready to go.
Looks like Lil V was the solution. Walked on over and immediately knew.
Yeah.
And
he's a man of many talents.
Yeah, when you've been around the game for such a long time, I'm sure you figured out some of the strange happenings that can happen in the League client.
Yes, I know you have been talking to me at length about the League clients and many opinions on that, but we don't need to talk about that because we're in game, everybody. Thank you for bearing with us through all of that, but we are finally on the rift for game number 1 of this best of 5 do or die series. Remember, the winner moves forward in the lower bracket. The loser doesn't move forward at all. They head home. Their playoff run will be done.
Nothing too surprising when it comes to the rune choices here. The only thing is the fact that Whale is sitting on the press to attack. So he's looking to be a little bit more aggressive in his trading style. But again, when you have Tahm Kench against a enchanter like Nami, it is very difficult to just find good trades for you. And it's going to involve 665 coming down early to really influence or swing the state of that lane.
Oh yeah, that's going to be very important. But we will not get any shenanigans to start right now. The leash does happen on red side for MFT, and Kongye soloing out on the blue, but no vision gained by either side in this one. We've been getting used to seeing both teams tracking junglers very effectively. Not the case in this game.
And we're actually seeing Kongye start out bot lane or top lane by himself, which means he will finish in that bottom side. And already early trading going through. Enzo, he's been, one of our highlight support players in our league. Really, really good on these more enchanter-focused champions, and a lot of trading actually happening in this bottom lane.
Yeah, he does get poked a little bit. You have to keep in mind that the Nami sustain's still there. Not as much off the pots as it used to be. So this is a bit of a dangerous duo to play. But Lil V and Enzo, very confident, and for good reason, too. You mentioned Enzo being a solid support player, particularly on these enchanters, and he has been rocking them, especially that Renata Glass. All of this for a player that role swapped a few splits ago.
And I think that was sort of the issue that they ended up facing in the previous series, where they ended up having Enzo play more of these engaged supports. But if you play engaged supports into a player like Kino, who's known for his engaged supports, that's when you sort of trade down. So I like the fact that they are coming back to the Enchanter a look as 665, as we sort of expected, looking to play more top heavy, throwing it out. The vision is actually going to get a decent chunk of knowledge for them, knowing that, hey, Hong is going to be towards this bottom half of the map.
Ooh, nice flash from Hong, too, as soon as Uniboy does. Almost no delay there, but now it's 665. Paying a visit to the top side, and Rock could be under fire. He burns Ignite immediately, does not have that flash, and in the Gwen Mist he goes, but Taco slices, dices, the tower takes him down anyways. They did not juggle the aggro on that at all.
Not that clean of a dive. However, they still hold on to the flash on Taco. They will be able to play around that. And also maybe a return gank in the mid lane.
So it's 665.
2v2.
Okay, there's that Vision of Empire. Does eat the charm, though, right into the Kongye fists. But they're trading out on both sides. 665 wants to get something for this in a 1v1 trade. Yep. He does. Burns flash. Kongye on level the chase with the level advantage, but now it evens out. And he's blast coning out. So far, we've got a pair of trades on the map, and 665 involved in both of them.
This is actually really, really good for the side of MFT. This is the game script that they do need to see in order for them to gain advantages. Just continue to have these more scrappy oriented game scripts where 665 can get more involved and trying to get a couple of these kills for himself. Now on to 2 kills. He is extremely strong. And over in this top side, like, the wave's coming back towards Taco. Yes, they trade 1 for 1, but because Rock gets denied a decent chunk of minions and the wave does bounce back towards Taco, as we get to see the replay, it's just Gage coming in for Kongria onto Hongtu. They know they have more than enough damage to burst them out. I feel like 665 waited a little bit too long to come in, but regardless, they trade 1 for 1 in that instance. And maybe we get to see a return visit from 665 already, just establishing much more top-heavy focus, which is what we haven't seen from him all split long, and that's very welcome sight to see in this game number 1.
MFT have definitely refined their game plan coming into this series, and it is good to see because it means we might be in for a closer one than as to be expected before. Really encouraging to see 665 getting in on the action early. Yes, they could be a little cleaner about it. I think a few more kinks to work out, but for the time being, it's good. J-Team sensing that this is possibly going to be a lot more pressure topside, opt to get a little more vision. Rock has been better about placing those wards down early, but down bot continues to be a problem. You can see a big CS lead building for Lil V as they start to push in on the tower, finding plate gold, and MFT are going to have to do something about that.
Oh, possible collapse onto Taco.
Yeah, he's in trouble. He slices and he dices. He's fine.
Yeah, unfortunately, Pins are not quite there coming in from both of these solo laners. And
look at this long flank.
This is a great angle for a gank if they can get onto him.
Waiting for it. Still only level 4, and they know something's up right now. And here he goes. Only gets bop onto Enzo's head, unfortunately. Having the Cyclone would have made a big difference there, but all this time in lanes means that he hasn't been able to farm quite as effectively, so he's a level behind Kongye.
And look at the response. It's going to be 3 people going straight towards that top lane.
Oh boy.
Taco is not level 6 as well. He needs to hit
no
level 6 off this wave if he can.
Oh, he's got the flash. He does get 6. Immediately goes into the Dominus, starts slicing, starts dicing, but this team, J-Team, are primed to turn him into a pair of boots, and they do. That's going to be the kill picked up by Rock on the Ignite tick, and Hongtu comes in for the defense, try and push them off. They will be able to secure a plate nonetheless. 665 starts off on this Dragon, though, and this is a Hex tech. Big value out of this one, at least.
This is actually massive here for MFT. Even though that they lose the kill up in the top lane, they don't lose a ton of farm. They also are able to get farm back onto Taco because he goes ahead, teleports into that mid lane, gets that EXP, doesn't miss out on much, and MFT actually get the first dragon. So when you are playing that Lucian Nami composition, you expect to be able to stack dragons early, and when you lose that first one, it could be impactful as we move on later into the game.
Absolutely. That's a really good find by MFT despite losing Taco, and we don't often talk about the flip side of having a lot of people move up on the map to get a dive. If the team on the opposite side of the map realizes there's an objective to take away, they can do it. J-Team are not particularly good at securing the first dragon. They're actually one of the worst teams in the league at doing it, and this is what I talk about when I say they're slow. They kind of just roll through a little bit, and well, Lil V and Enzo were trying to bait out a 3v2 with Kongye, but well, Inishi realized something's up. They back away.
Yeah, Kongye shows, and they just go ahead, walk it off. Whale, level 6, has Calibrum, so he can go ahead stop these backs as well. So all things considered, this is a great early game coming in from MFT. Even though they are down 500 gold, they've kind of hashed out the win conditions that we wanted them to try and tick here with this comp and be able to try and fight around top half of the map. And also this bottom lane hasn't been all that punished, even though they are running the Tom Kench. And that is going to be problematic.
Certainly will be. Those junglers sniffing around the mid lane at the moment. Hongtu dings over to 6 to match Uniboy. I do think a problem for MFT is going to be Rock, as he's 2 kills up on the Gwen already. Opts for the early boot finish. And Kongye with the Vault Breaker just to threaten, walk away from it. And now with him showing, 665 cannot freely take away this objective. Skull, or the not the Skull Crab, the Rift Herald, much bigger crab. What's 665 doing here? Does he want a 1v1? I think he wants a 1v1.
I think he's really hoping Kongye makes his way over to this Gromp. Try and pick him off there. Okay, he's going to be spotted. 665. He's in trouble now.
Given. Now Uniboy going over the cease and desist. He waited forever only to get taken down. That was a misfire. It's going to result in a Herald play.
Just really... This is sort of the give and take of 665, right? Where he gets super aggressive, and sometimes when he gets that lead, he wants to push it a little bit too far without the help of his laners. And with the wave state up top side, he was never going to have that Renekton there to back him up. And now they do give up a pretty big objective in this Rift Herald. The extra 200 local gold is going to help out Rock considerably in getting back into the lane. And Gwen is one of those champions against this Renekton. Once you hit 2 items, the Renekton is going to drop off considerably, whereas on the flip side, Rock is going to do so much work in these team fights.
Yeah, and Taco could be in even more trouble right now if Kongye comes in. Doesn't have the cease and desist up and available, but they could just drop the Herald and try to push out some more plates. Instead, they want to make a bigger play out of it. That's the back way. Kongye goes home and picks himself up a Chempunk Chainsword. Be able to dish some more damage out now. We're starting to see the buys coming in. Players spending out on their gold a little bit. I can't believe it. I don't think Lilvi is backed until... No, I think this was his first back. He just goes from Longsword to Gale Force. You don't see
really
that every
big
game.
Purchase. So, I mean, that's definitely a big purchase here for him. The big issue is, of course, he only has the Gale Force. So if the
issues on the other team, Nightstar.
That's true. MFT, if they can get onto Lil V, he's got no escapes, right? So that it's going to be very reliant on him being able to utilize his Gale Force and his dash to get out of any sticky situation. But as a Lucian, you want to play aggressive. You want to dash forward rather than backwards.
That's true. And also, Lilvi's job is going to be a bit different in this game, right? Normally, he's a bit of their late game insurance. And right now, he's kind of going to be all about the mid game and trying to be just pumping Cullings into MFT's face. Kongye here to clear the ward, looking for the 4-man, but they don't find it before they're sniffed out on that ward. Scuttle Crab secured. This is going to be a dragon setup, though. Cloud's going to spawn in about 15 seconds, a little bit later than J-Team would have liked, so they're not going to stick around for it. Just investing some vision. And MFT, they would love to pick up another one and slow down J-Team's game plan even further.
I honestly don't think that MFT are going to care too much about giving this one up, because it does mean that we are going to have a combat stat soul. So you're going to get so much extra value from these later dragons, knowing that this one is a Cloud Dragon. It's not going to be Cloud Soul, where you're not getting a ton of battle stats. This is really important for J-Team to actually get a dragon on the board, but for MFT, you know, this is an opportunity to possibly fight. However, Taco doesn't have his teleport up, and it's not unleashed there. So he's going to be a big factor for their, you know, one big team fight. So I think they want to wait for those tools to be available before they actually go for something.
Yeah, Shelly's going to be popped, though, so Lilvi and Enzo are going to try and push this one at 665 there. Culling already channeled Issue, going to eat most of it up. And there will be the charge, should just be plates, and that's it. They get the smite off immediately. Nicely done on that. And what they were hoping to buy some time with to maybe get this dragon isn't going to result in anything. Kongye is going to proc it nonetheless. And as you predicted, MFT are happy to give this away.
Yeah, they do have the Imperial Mandate completed on to the Swain, and he's really strong at that point, but I'm sure they would love to get that second item on top of that, along with being able to get Taco into this fight. And just in regards to the fact that, hey, you know, Lil V, he's got the Gale Force, so we don't have our Mythic completed onto our AD carry, so it's definitely not a great fight timing for us. So I like that coming in, MFT, but it does mean that really a lot of this is going to boil down to the next dragon.
Yes, it will, and it is going to be an Infernal Soul, so Booyah! we got those big old battle stats to fight for this time around. Dragon split a piece, 14-minute mark, gold lead, though in favor of J-Team off the back of some plates that they were able to secure there as they drop. 640 gold in total. Thanks, Shelly, for a couple, but as you said, this is not the worst start to the game for Meta Falcon team. They wanted to get aggressive, they wanted to make some plays, but more importantly, they wanted to play safe on bottom, and they have done exactly that.
Yeah, they've really ticked all the boxes. Again, they're only 1,300 gold behind. And that is slightly concerning because, again, when we talk about J-Team, they curb stomp bottom team. And right now, okay, at least a great burst of damage. Unfortunately, Whale has the Severum, so he's going to be able to heal up. No questions asked.
Yeah, this is J-Team continuing to play it out a little slowly. They've been the more reactive team. They looked to set up that 4-man dive, didn't result in anything. Vault Breaker channeling Kongye just moves it back, and now you can see MFT starting to get a position. They are going to get on top of 665. He eats the charm. However, there's a lot more members of MFT there, and J-Team have to back away. Lil V wasn't even in position for the fight. Here comes the 4v4, though. Lil V gets licked. 665 goes in, gets immediately exhausted, swallowed up, though, by Issue to keep him alive. Lil V taking so much damage now. Pulled back by the never move. Kongye takes a lot of damage. Oh, Whale flashes forward. That's the heal from Enzo. So many chakrams, but they can't quite get any kills on the board.
J-Team fans, they're on a trip. They're on a trip because that was not the best looking fight coming in from J-Team. They overextend themselves, thought that they had the pick onto 665, but then the turn comes in, and already MFT, they are looking like a completely different team coming into this first playoff game. Or maybe it's just the fact that J-Team, we expected so much more, and they still haven't delivered on it.
Oh my gosh. Nice start. MFT win this game. I'm going to have to yeet my bracket into the sun. This is looking like a very, very slow game for them as they try to force a fight, and MFT just slip away. Issue with a fantastic swallow. Gets 665 out of harm's way. He looked like a dead man there after he was exhausted in the midst of Cyclone. But J-Team do have an opening for another Rift Herald. They'll be able to secure this one up. Last time, it only resulted in plate gold. I would love to see them set up a good dive and turn this into multiple objectives, because as you said, they have been able to traditionally just smash teams lower in the bracket. But right now, it's looking like a much more even game.
Yeah. For J-Team, it's been kind of a measure of like, are you a good team? If you are, you won't get smashed by J-Team. If you aren't, you'll probably get curved.
Well, that's the problem then. It looks like maybe MFT are a good team. Currently, starting to look like it. However, Hong 2 does eat that charm, immediately turns on the Demonic Deception. And here is 665 going in, gets ceased and desist, but is it maybe J-Team that will be ceasing? No, they come right back in. Beauty Boy getting baited as Taco takes him down with the Cold of Meek in on that Dominus. Taco on the chase was not able to find any more kills, but Lil V...
Issue?
Hold on. Wait, he's out of there. Oh. Okay. Issue was looking to cut him off the pass. Still, though, one kill unanswered by MFT.
Maybe Issue was just winning that 1v1 against Lil V. I'm not sure because those health bars very, very different in there. And yet another engage that J-Team, they look to try and force pick, and they get turned on. So now you're looking at an Ahri Lucian combination that only have one kill between the two. You're going to lose. It's slowly but surely as the game moves forward. These two big carries or carry players are going to lose damage later in the game. As you get to see the replay, they jump onto Home 2. Looks great at the start, but then that last dash forward, the early stopwatch onto Home 2 pays off dividends, and Taco appears just in time to secure the kill.
Yeah, nicely played by Taco. And at this point for J-Team, you're going to start wanting Rock to pull a lot of extra weight. That's not typically what they've gone towards, but the 2 early kills means that the Gwen will be able to be a terror on the side lanes. You need everybody else to start moving up. And this Dragon being looked at by Meta Falcon team, they're in position. Gwen TP on. They're going to pull this one as far out of the pit as they dare. Issue body blocking. That resets. They might be in for a good old flip.
This is the most important fight because this is where Taco is strongest. And Hong 2, he is exceptionally strong too at this point.
Great never move. It's going to turn into even more here as 665 finds Enzo.
Numbers advantage.
Slaps him down. That's going to be the start on this Dragon as he dashes over the wall. Flash about to come back up for him. Doesn't have it just yet, and that's going to be the start. J-Team look to contest. Taco eats the charm into the orb, but he's a big tanky boy. And J-Team know they can't fight this. They give it away. MFT with a Dragon advantage.
Oh my lord, we're in for a trip, Pyra, because MFT, they come out with the kill advantage and they get the Dragon, so now it's 2 combat Dragons against just move speed on the side of J-Team. So this is massive implications going into that next Dragon, because usually you say, hey, you know, Renekton, he's going to start falling off, but we also have a Vi, Ahri, Lucian, very high single target DPS champions. But when it comes to a straight up 5v5, they're going to lose a lot of impact. So we need to see things happen before the team fight actually happens. They have to really force a pick here somewhere on the map, because as things stand out, they're even going into sort of utility builds already, right? Uniboy, he's completed the Morello Nomicon. Yes, there's a lot of healing, but that's not the highest second item damage spike for a champion like Ahri.
Yeah, J-Team aren't going to have enough damage to do much in the straight-up 5v5, and you see MFT are kind of playing for the long game. That Bloodthirster completed out by Whale as his second item, and it is a 2-item build for Hong 2 as well, with the Rylai's now complete. And MFT, they're just sticking as the 4-man core, and Taco going to be a pressure on the side lane. Rock has not really been able to match as much in a straight-up 1v1 just yet. And you got to be careful. You have to respect that Swain damage. Hong 2 has been playing very well this game. Despite being focused down, targeted a couple times in the lane, he's held his own against Uniboy, and I think that really says it all.
Pyra, maybe I should have just picked all of the lower seeds.
Should you? Perhaps. You would have been looking like a genius right about now. I don't know how it's going to go as this game goes on. Rock gets Taco in the 2v1, but immediately MFT turn their sights onto the Baron. Let's see if they can get this one in time, as the Vision of Empire is trying to keep the rest of J-Team away. The wave comes through, gets the full knock-up. Here's Uniboy around the side.
Good lockdown.
They don't find enough damage, though. That's going to be the swallow up by Thomas Kench of Whale. It does force the reset of Baron Nashor, and they will get out of there. It doesn't quite fully reset, but J-Team aren't in position to fully take it. Lil V eats a ton of damage from the big Baron.
Great pick coming in from J-Team, and I like the response coming in from MFT, threatening the Baron, but unfortunately at 21 minutes into the game, they just don't have enough damage to take it down quite yet. It is, of course, the Mandate Swain, which is really, really strong in these team fights. Not the greatest damage for objectives, though. So if you wanted to rush an early Baron in that situation, you would have loved to have the Leandries in that case, but that's not what MFT are going for. They're still, you know, it's 2k down. But again, this bottom half of the map is going to scale incredibly well. There's Issue taking a bunch of damage, but the damage is being returned.
My goodness. Issue is not the target you are looking to delete as well. Lil V does have a pretty low cooldown on that culling, but still, you want to find the pick, you want to find the deletion. They had some good early plays, a lot of them reactive, but they need to do more. Rock does get his second item, gets the Void Staff complete, so that side lane should start to become a threat, and Konge is mobile enough to get in position and assist him. So maybe the strategy is to just keep ganking the teleport and not letting them get into the position fast enough. But Taco, game senses are tingling. Maybe he's going to go for the 2v2 himself. 665's at his back.
Everyone's making their way over as well. It's 4-man bot side.
It's like a long game of chicken there. Nobody bites.
No catfishing there. And things kind of return to neutral. Buying more and more time for MFT's comp to slowly come online. Once Whale hits that third item, that's where things are really going to flip on its head. So they just need to funnel all their resources into the Aphelios. Once he gets that IE, this game almost feels like it's a wrap, because against IE Aphelios with the Tom Kench, it feels so difficult to actually find the angle to get a pick onto this champion.
Konga gets licked, has to take the Vault Breaker back. Now, win or lose this game, you got to be feeling good as Meta Falcon team. You were not favored coming into today. All of us, casters on the English broadcast, gave them no shot at all, and right now they are showing up very well. Number 7 seed, J-Team, looking to be upset once again. Oh, that's the pull-in, and Elward! Enzo just gets deleted. That Nami, not a whole lot of sustain when you can't press your buttons.
Catfished and filleted is that Nami, and now they're going to have man advantage with Dragon now live.
Charm does land onto Whale, swallowed up by the Tom Kench. Meanwhile, they're going to start this fight off, and the Colin comes out from Lil V, but Hong 2 is absorbing a lot of it, and they have a lot of damage, looking to protect Whale as much as they can. You can see their body blocking stuff, and Kong, yeah, he stays in this one. And they even flash forward. Hong 2 looking for more, doesn't quite take Uniboy out, but with the jungler dead, that's going to be another dragon, and you know what that means, Night Star. It's Soul Point, baby.
Oh my lord, MFT. They find the answers. They're now, yes, they're still down in gold, but the gold doesn't really matter at this point because they have the scaling advantage and they also have 3 combat stat dragons. So you have to factor that into the calculations as well. And at this point, Uniboy, I mean, it's kind of laughing things off. But this is no laughing matter for J-Team fans because their team is on the brink of being down 1-0 to the 7th seed.
Yeah, J-Team are not looking good right now. They have not been able to find much in the last couple minutes. And yes, they have the gold lead, but as you pointed out, doesn't mean much at this stage of the game. And when you look at the dragon difference, that is making all of it right now. Keeping your eye on Whale's item build too. He's very close to that 3-item spike. So, yeah, things are it's a bad time to be a J-Team fan at the moment.
And Rock, he really needs that next item. Once he hits 3 items, then perhaps you're able to kind of one-shot Whale in the backline, even with the shielding coming in from Issue. I'm surprised he didn't go for the 2nd item. Okay, this is a possible pick. This should be a kill.
Find Whale. That's big. They needed it. Not shutdown gold, but still very important. Opens up an opportunity to maybe push on this tower. They do run out of minions for now. But with Rock and Kongye leading them into the base turrets, that's an opportunity. Just got to dodge the Hong 2 damage. That big Eye of Sauron hurts a lot more than it should, as they will be able to secure an inner off that. Gold swing now in favor of J-Team.
Still, map going to be mostly dominated by the side of J-Team, even now. A lot of control on their end. They're the ones really pushing all the lanes in. That should be expected with how much catch potential they do have. And for MFT, it's about playing more of that ball up style. Play super defensive. And Whale ends up playing in a moment where he's just by himself. That's where J-Team can pounce, and they take full advantage of that moment of isolation, get the pick onto him, and it's, you know, it doesn't kill the game for MFT necessarily, but it's nice gold going back into the pockets of J-Team.
Right now, J-Team give themselves not just a gold lead, but the tempo advantage too, and they didn't have vision on the Baron, but around the pit, they could see a couple members of the Meta Falcon team moving in there, and you know, a little uncertainty. Always have to respect that possibility. They did try to rush it down a lot earlier. J-Team will be able to go and clear away, but yeah, we are seeing J-Team continue to be a little bit slow in their game plans. Their opportunistic plays have panned out, though, in that particular instance. Like to see it. Rock is going to be a bit of a side lane terror right now. He's 3 items completed, but I'm looking at this damage across the board, and like in these team fights, it's not going to go great the longer it goes on. They need to get quick picks. They need Whale and Hong 2 out of there fast.
And I really want to see J-Team make an aggressive move towards the Baron buff. Although finding a pick onto Taka would be really good, but if you're looking at trying to create space to then secure the dragon, it really comes down to targeting the Baron buff early on before MFT can set up vision and pull them away from that dragon area. Unfortunately, I feel like the timers tick down a little bit too much here, that MFT, they're in a very comfortable spot. Once it gets down to that 1 minute area, then you know all the attention is going to be onto dragon. They can't possibly start Baron without facing the repercussions of just trading Soul. And at this point in the game, Soul or Inferno Soul just does so much damage.
Yeah, there's a lot more for MFT right now, so they have more options. That in their base is still holding, right? Without being able to at least open up an inhibitor, I think J-Team just haven't created enough side lane pressure, and kudos to MFT for keeping their side lanes from collapsing. Despite getting Whale caught a little earlier on, it's still working out well for them. But 40 seconds till that dragon spawn. MFT, they have a lot of choices that they can make. And it is J-Team that must force the issue here.
Yeah, they need to look an aggressive angle, get some culling damage down. This could be one of those possibilities. As Whale, now he has the Infinity Edge completed, channeling that recall. So he should have that done and dusted for this next fight.
There it is.
And it's just in time, right? 7 seconds for this dragon. They're going to try and do it off a spawn. But I think for MFT, you're okay with letting this one go because you can turn your attention for really anything else. You can look for the fight. You can look for Baron as well because you have a 3-item Philios at this point. You're really, really strong.
I think they're going to go for the Baron, or at least set up for a feint on it as Rock stays to finish the job. With that Scryer's Bloom, J-Team realized, okay, they're just trying to bait us out, so J-Team wins big.
Indecision comes out for MFT. They feel like they weren't quite set up to attempt to contest the dragon. Charm lands.
Charm! That's massive, but Whale does get swallowed up by Issue, so he'll stay alive for a little while. And meanwhile, with that expended, let's see
now
if
they
the
can
fight
dive.
Goes the way of J-Team looking for that dive play, but Hong 2 staying healthy. 665 being chased away on the side. Uni Boy finds some damage, not quite enough with the Orb of Deception to finish the job. They do not get the picks, but they do push MFT back.
And Whale there just walks way too far up, gets hit by the charm, and it forces out the ultimate coming in from Issue. Yes, you're a Tahm Kench. You're going to be able to keep your Philio safe. No doubt about it. You just can't burn that cooldown so early on in the fight because you imagine if they still had that ultimate, then they can play that fight much more aggressively. And now they might get just turned on as if she was forced to flash because he knows the ultimate of Vi is still up and available.
Yeah, that's rough. MFT, you know, I think the bot laner on their side might be wishing his name was Minnow because his hitbox is just a little bit too big. Right now, Whale is needing to get a bit better positioning in these fights if they do not want to get pushed back. So J-Team have done a fair bit to get themselves a buffer into this late game, but now the teleport is coming in. MFT may force themselves into this, yeah, it was actually just a back teleport by Hong 2 spent there. It seems like they're kind of getting antsy on the map right now, Nightstar.
Seem a little bit lost in trying to make a decision, but flank coming in.
Go, Lil B moves forward, finds that culling, and they will get the swallow up, but the charm does land on Tahm Kench. Meanwhile, from the backside, look at Rock doing all the work right now as he goes huge in this one. Whale finally falls down thanks to the efforts of Uni Boy, but the kill credit goes the way of Rock, and they will be able to clean this fight up. Even with Hong 2 looking massive, the Demonic Ascension is on. Rock is still standing tall, or is he? He finally falls down. His health bars are a little bit low. That's a double kill coming in for Uni Boy. However, the Swain looking big. Can Hong 2 get even more off the back of it? The answer is no, and Uni Boy picks himself up a triple to clean the fight.
And this just has to be the base just taken apart here by the side of J-Team, but unfortunately the waves aren't quite set up that they're able to really just shatter this game open. MFT will still have an opportunity to make a statement in this game. What for the side of J-Team, a much needed team fight victory as Uniboy goes absolutely nuclear in this fight, along with Rock being able to delete the backline. This is the angle that they need to approach when it comes to these fights. They need to come in from multiple angles with the Vi, with this Gwen pick, because now Gwen just able to shred through Whale. And Whale, once again, comes under fire early, forces out the Tahm Kench ultimate, and you just can't make those mistakes, even though Hong 2 is just so monstrous on this Swain as a pseudo frontline member, but unfortunately the damage not quite there. So the side of J-Team, they do the correct thing. Ignore him for the most part and just make sure you kill everyone else first.
Yeah, Hong 2 is still difficult to take down, but really good positioning from Rock. Uniboy getting around the backside, making sure Whale never had a moment to breathe, and Lil V opening that one up. He knows his job at this point is to just look for as much damage as he can find. And here we go again, right back to the same spot into the backline. Whale does stay alive here, even without any summoners. He's keeping himself on the backline right now. That shutdown onto Rock means that there's numbers advantage here to play with for MFT for how long as Uniboy goes forward, goes golden immediately, and that's the turn now as Taco looks for something, taking Kongye out of this. But once again, J-Team firing back, take Whale down, take Issue down, and they win this one.
If that was Super Minions actually in the mid lane, we could definitely conclude that this game might have been over. But unfortunately, not actually having the extra minions to shove and try and end the game.
Lil V though. Kill though nonetheless. Hong 2 gets bursted out, and Lil V just goes on an absolute spree here by finding an aggressive dash forward. Now the timer resets, Taco and 665 the only ones up. You got to think J-Team turns on the Baron here, even with Kongye 10 seconds away.
And finally, J-Team have figured out how to play their composition. It only took 30 minutes into the game, Pyra, but
I said they were a slow team! I said they were a slow team, and here's the proof in the pudding. But they are getting it back, and yeah, taking advantage of MFT mispositioning, even though they turtled up as a 5-member. Fantastic flanks around the side, great vision, teleports. Rock and Uniboy have been monumental, and I misspoke about the Baron. It will in fact be Dragon spawning, and J-Team are going to get themselves on Soul Point as well. So things are looking up for the J-Team squad. It was a scary 30 minutes, and well, now they're right back on the board.
Finally, J-Team fans can breathe a sigh of relief. As
it's not over till it's over, Nightstar.
It does feel like they've figured out the solution to the problem, to the issue, you might say. And
burning issues swallow?
Yeah, you know, they have an 8K gold. And they've evened up the dragons to a degree. While the scaling, you know, is still at somewhat at a disadvantage. Rock, the main member who does scale, is quite monstrous. And he has the Shadow Flame completed, which means he pretty much does true damage to Whale, who doesn't have any magic resistance. And when he gets that shield, of course, you get the extra magic pen coming in from Shadow Flame.
Yeah, you know, I said this composition wasn't going to be all about Lil V, but he has been flexing on this Lucian of late and finding openings for his team, finding just massive culling damage, and now they start off on the Baron. This is in full vision. They should turn the fight. Look at Rock's positioning right now, and he looks for the long wrap around. The charm does land, and 665 taken almost down to 0, and now the turn is on once again. The trap has been snapped, and Uniboy pushing the damage. Taco takes the full culling and goes down into the cease and desist. Kongye with the chase down, and Uniboy will be able to finish off 665. And with that wave, MFT are waving goodbye to game number 1, despite Hong2's best efforts. It's not going to go that way. Only Issue lives, but the base is going to be next.
And J-Team, after a very labored effort, 37 minutes, those look like they will be able to secure themselves game number 1. Super Minions piling in, death timer is way too long, and it's only a Tom Kench who's stuck in their side of the jungle.
Yeah, that's GG, 37.5 minutes, a longer game, a slower game, but in the end, J-Team, the higher seed, do prevail. As we did expect, it took them a while to get there. There are troubling signs. Perhaps they can brave the stormy seas and get themselves back into calm waters soon.
And for the side of MFT, I am not too unhappy with how this game transpired, right? The early game really played out towards how you wanted to play. You threw some attention up into that top lane, and unfortunately, Taco unable to really effectively snowball off of that lead. But you have to like the look, right? Because Whale also did very, very well in the lane phase, even though we said, hey, this should be a very lopsided lane. Didn't turn out that way. And that bodes well for MFT's chances to make a dent in this series.
Yeah, I think MFT really played it out well early and in the mid-game. A handful of mistakes, particularly Whale's positioning, and also just, I think, not recognizing some of J-Team's map movements. Taco got caught out a couple of times trying to push on the side lane, J Team started to speed things up. It was a very slow ramp up, but MFT played incredibly well up until that point. They lost out on some of these fights, and it was all about positioning. It was all about getting themselves caught out in a bad spot and being susceptible to a gank. Those fights don't happen. They do outscale. They do get the win, and I think that's not something that really anyone was going to be expecting coming into today, even in a single game. So there is definitely life in this team. There is definitely some chances. I like what they brought out in the draft, and it worked out well for them. 2/3 of the game, it's just that last third is what matters.
Yeah, and unfortunately, they didn't find the most impactful team fights at the end of the game for MFT, which is why J-Team, they're the ones out to somewhat expected result in the 1-0. How they got there? Not expected.
Yeah, I think J-Team are going to have to pick up the pace for sure. Like, they could very well still get a sweep on the series, but I would hesitate to call it clean based on the results of that first game. If I'm the J-Team coaching staff, I got to be going back and saying, guys, we need to get faster. We need to get more decisive. And if you're going to pick something like Lucian Nami, you need to be more aggressive down bot early. And they traded out a little bit, but other than shoving waves, they didn't get much done. Kongye tried once or twice for a lane gank, and that was about all we saw. I want to see more out of this J-Team side if they want to make a serious deep run in the playoffs and really live up to the fact that they are the number 3 seed. Because if not, I think we could be in for another split of the postseason J-Team jitters.
Man, J-Team fans, if this goes down poorly, they're going to be in shambles. As you said, your bracket's probably yeeted into the sun.
Saved for now. It's saved for now, Nightstar. The dream is still alive. We will see. I can't believe we had all different picks like that. We were very much on different pages for our predictions, but for this game, we did get the result. It's not how we thought it was going to happen.
Yeah, this is for our English broadcast. 4 of our casters picked them to go to Worlds in some degree. So, just saying.
They're going to have to level up a little bit. Let's take a look at some of the final fights in this one. I mean, this was actually a fantastic play by Meta Falcon team, and one of the weaknesses of playing the Lucian Nami, particularly that Nami on this patch 12.14, he's just not as sustainable as he used to be. You're susceptible to big burst. Enchanter supports, I mean, they're fun, but you gotta respect the damage, and yeah,
the turn here, this was the key moment where we saw maybe J-Team have found the solution to the problem. Unfortunately, MFT, that was a moment
this
in
is where
time
they found a solution.
Yeah, that was a moment in time where they just didn't have enough oomph to be able to finish off Whale after he came out of the Devour. This, I think, was also, so this was where, all of a sudden they had enough damage. They just kind of focused on one target at a time, which for the side of J-Team, remember, this is a composition, while didn't have the greatest team fight damage, had a lot of single target damage. So they kind of changed their priorities to just saying, hey, we just overload our entire kit onto one champ. We can burst them out and just move on to the next one.
Yeah, I think finally finding that realization really did make all the difference, but it took a long time to get there, and you can see it in the gold graph how it started ramping up after the 20-minute mark. J-Team were finding little advantages, but they didn't start finding the fights until much later. They had to deal with Hong 2 and how he was becoming a monster. They had to contend with the fact that there was going to be the Aphelios timer to play with, but once they started making moves around the map, finding picks, finding openings, that's when it took off for J-Team. And I would like to see them launching a little bit faster for games 2, 3, and however many more we get.
Yeah, this was a composition from J-Team that it felt like they should have been very far ahead at the 20-minute mark, maybe around that 4 to 6K margin. And at 20 minutes, they were dead even. So credit goes to MFT to be able to hold the game steady. Now it's about them being able to find the finishing blow, to find that one big killer fight when they have advantages, to then snowball into it, the Dragon Soul or that Baron. Because you imagine if they were able to get the Dragon Soul at the 6th Dragon, then maybe this game just turns completely different.
Yeah, I think they just got slowly squeezed out and couldn't really find the angles, and that's when they started
Mhm.
focusing on trying to bowl their way through. But one of the man that did not let them do it was Uniboy. He stepped up big time in some of those fights, finding flank angles alongside Rock and getting
Mhm.
priority targets, landing massive charms and dishing the damage. Once he actually started building into the damage, we started to see him take off 30% of his teams by the end of the game. And yeah, that's the Uniboy we were hoping to see, we were expecting to see. And I think in the back half of this game, he definitely proved he's back.
He finally ended up stepping up towards that end game and on the Ari pick, no less. A lot of playmaking potential, but perhaps not the highest damage potential coming in from the mid lane. But he lived up to it. He was able to deal the damage and be able to find the pick. So he really did it all for his squad.
Well, it may have taken J-Team a little while, but they managed to get that first win on the board. We'll see if they can do it again, or will Meta Falcon team strike back right after this break.